This meeting is being recorded.
You're muted, Sonia.
I'm so glad Bart turned on the recording because I asked him to, because last year I forgot to turn on the recording until halfway through the session, which was not very useful to those delegates who were, not able to be here. All right, I'm going to turn off the constant beeping on my particular device so that since I will be talking a lot, we will not hear the beeping as more and more people get into the waiting room. So Bart, do you think that you would be able to let people in from the waiting room? Yay. Thank you, Bart.
Iris, I loved your story about Hank in your newsletter. I thought that was most adoring.
That was Betty, and she should be here soon.
Well, that was very good. That was there. Speaking of that,
I'm here.
hello,
There you are, Betty.
Hi, Betty.
Betty. I loved your story about you and Hank and your daughter in the hospital. I thought that was most adorable in the Novus newsletter. I thought that was really cool. So,
Sue, I'm impressed that you actually read all these different newsletters.
oh, I try to. I like to read.
I like to read, but I'll admit that reading every society's newsletter would not actually be what I wind up doing.
Well, I don't do everyone. I just happen to love how whoever the newsletter editor happens to be at Novus. I got hooked on Andy Stanton when he was the editor of Novus, so that was it. So
We have the most meager newsletter, so it's not much to read. So it's nice when there's something that catches people's eyes.
well, I usually read I've got to admit, I skip over your Sunday school stuff, but I do enjoy things that you say. So.
So it's 9 o'clock, and I like to be prompt in starting these kinds of things in order to avoid wasting people's time. So hi, welcome to your delegate training session. So what we're going to do in this delegate training session is I'm going to tell you where to find the important information that you may need as a delegate. And I'm also going to explain to you how the voting process is going to work and how the discussion process is going to work during the course of the days leading up to the assembly and the actual assembly itself. For those of you who were here last year, this is very similar to last year's procedures. So there's not a huge amount of difference between that last year and this year. However, there are a few minor changes. And for those of you who were not delegates last year, you will hopefully learn things that you did not already know about how this process is going to work for you. So the first thing that you should know is that there is a Delegate Materials website that contains various information that you may need as a delegate. It happens that this website has only just been published about half an hour ago and does not contain all of the information as of yet that you may need. However, it does contain some of the information you need, and it will contain more of the information that you need. I am going to show you what that website looks like. I have put the URL for the website in the chat. And let me share my screen for you. Let me share my screen with you. Over here we have the Delegate Materials website. And like in every other year in recent memory, it contains things like information about board members. It contains a link over to the main assembly website, which has information about the speakers and that sort of stuff. You'll notice if you click on this 2022 assembly link, it'll take you to a page that looks like this, which has information about the different sessions that are going to be offered and the dates for those sessions. It contains information about when the various assembly business sessions are going to be, and gives the link so that you will be able to attend them. You'll notice that there are sessions for meeting the candidates. There are sessions for budget and finance. There are sessions for resolutions, which I don't believe we have yet received any resolutions. Is that right, Bart?
That's correct.
Okay. We might not have these sessions if we don't get any, if, in theory, we should have already received resolutions, but, I would imagine that if we were to receive resolutions in the next day or so before this session is supposed to happen, that we would probably still be willing to discuss them. Any bylaw amendments and policy changes, and then there's a link for the business meeting itself. So this information is on this page, as is this information about these various other sessions that look pretty interesting to me. I personally can't wait to hear from Sue and Scott Walton about what the ethical culture movement can learn from the Quakers, but I'm sure that you all have your own favorite topics that you are looking forward to. Okay, moving back over to the Delegate Materials site, Bart has also helpfully provided a downloadable PDF of the assembly calendar so that you can see at a glance when the different sessions are. And I realize this is teeny tiny, but if you were to print it out, I think you would find that it would be, useful to you. If you zoom in, it may wind up being more useful to you. I know that it's showing up blurry right now, but it wasn't blurry when I was looking at it earlier. So I think it will probably be fine. So this will show you in a grid format all the different days between now and the actual assembly when there are different sessions taking place. So hopefully you'll find that useful as well. And if you scroll down, you'll see we have those individuals who have thus far been nominated for the Anna Garland Spencer Award are listed there. We've got the candidates for the board of directors and for the officers. So that's a particularly important piece of information for you because there is a contested election for the board of directors. There are 5 candidates, but there are 4 open positions. So I would encourage you to attend the meet the candidates session tomorrow so that you can learn more about these various delegates or these various candidates and why you might be interested in voting for some of them and perhaps less enthusiastic about others. Sue, do you have any comments about the board of directors election since you happen to be here?
Yeah, that's why I got off the other call. Anyway, I think that you'll find it's interesting. In a sense, I'm sort of glad we waited so we sort of have a climax of this because it will be an interesting, what is interesting here is that we have 4 officers that are changing. The only officer who remains, and she's switching positions, is Liz Singer. She's going from vice president to treasurer. Everybody else is brand new to the position. Carolyn is running for an office first time, and she's also running for president. So this is not the usual thing in my 7 years of experience. So and we had a write-in candidate, and we had Cassandra Sears from, or not Cassandra, but Andrea Overman of St. Louis, who became a write-in candidate and got everything together. Of course, we sort of helped. We sent the petition to Lance to get it filled out for her. She can't do it, but she's traveling. So once we found out she was interested. So it's been very good. Took us a while to find everybody, but yeah.
Yep.
And definitely come tomorrow. And we will also be on the 17th of July. We will be doing a Sunday night.
Yeah, thanks so much, Sue, for all of the hard work that you and the other members of the Board Development Committee put into finding these candidates and finding folks who were interested in the officer positions. Fantastic work.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
If in a case like this where the president is the only one running, isn't that functionally, I don't understand the functional purpose of her also running as a candidate for the board of directors.
So the board of directors, like the individuals for the board of directors have to be elected by the assembly. And then there's the way the bylaws are written, there's a separate election for the officers. So since Carolyn Parker is not currently a member of the board, she first has to be elected to the board and then elected as president. If she were not elected to the board of directors, then she wouldn't be eligible to be president. And the board would then, because there is actually no way to nominate somebody else during the course of the assembly, according to our bylaws, then the board would have to appoint someone to the position of president from among the people who were serving on the board. And then, of course, we would work it out next year. So that's how that would work out.
So are you saying Zia, Dwight, and Liz are already on the board and not up for re-election this year?
That's right. So Zia, Dwight, and Liz are already serving on the board. They each have, I think they each have 2 more years left on their terms. So they don't have to be elected to the board of directors because they're already serving.
Correction, Zia is up for re-election next year.
Next year. Okay, so Zia has only 1 more year.
Yeah, she's serving on a partial term.
Thanks. Yeah. Thanks so much, Sue. I forgot.
Just the brain.
Yeah. Yep. Any other questions about the board of directors candidates? Obviously, meeting them tomorrow. Yeah.
I have a question. Can we see who the current board members are and what societies they represent? Is that like someplace obvious that I just a little late?
So that's
you don't have it. I have it, and I can
on AEU.org on the who we are.
Yep.
Be there. Also, if you send me your email in chat, I can make sure you get it as well, because I just put something out to President's Council on this. So,
yeah, but if you look at the on the AEU website, as Bart pointed out, and you should be able to see this on your screen now, the 2021 to 2022 Board of Directors is listed here. But then, of course, some of these individuals will be leaving the board because their terms are up or because they've chosen not to continue. So, like, I will not be continuing. Tom Castelnuovo will not be continuing. Casey Gardonio-Fote will not be continuing. And
Liz Collier.
And Liz Collier, right.
Right. Tom is term limited off.
Right.
The others have chosen not to.
Right. So, yeah, Casey and Liz have served a 3-year term, and they've chosen not to run for a second 3-year term. And I am at the end of the second year of my second 3-year term, but decided not to run not to continue for my last year because my 3 years as president was up. And so I chose, I felt that it would not be fair to the next president to have the former president continue on the board. That's a matter of opinion, but we're not really here to talk about those decisions tonight. We're really here to talk about more the process. All right. Any other questions about that, like who's running and sort of like process-oriented questions about that? Okay. All right. And as I said, tomorrow you'll have the chance to meet those candidates. And there are profiles of these individuals that you can access from this webpage. Continuing along on the procedures section, the most important thing here under the procedures section is the 2022 Assembly Discussion and Voting Procedures. These have been updated since last year because there were changes in the bylaws at last year's Assembly, but they are basically very similar to the ones that we used last year. So if you were not a delegate in last year's Assembly, one of the most important things that you need to know is that you can't submit any amendments to any matters of business during the meeting itself. So if you have amendments that you'd like to submit to orders of business, you need to submit them ahead of time. They're due by midnight on Thursday, July 14th. Midnight in whatever time zone you happen to be in, right? We're not like, that's not the critical detail is overnight between the 14th and 15th of July. And the reason why you have to do that ahead of time is because in the context of a virtual meeting, it is extremely difficult to deal with amendments that come up during the course of the meeting. And 2 years ago at the Assembly, we ran into the difficult situation where people weren't sure which amendments had passed, and it made it really hard for them to vote on the original motion, right? Because they didn't know which amendments to the motion had passed, and so they couldn't be sure whether they should vote for the final, whether they could vote for the final thing because they weren't sure if they agreed with it or not, right? So as a result, we've created this process where all the amendments have to be submitted ahead of time, and that allows for us to create different versions of the same document. So for example, if there were a bylaws amendment and there were 3 different ideas about how that bylaws amendment ought to be written, right, we would present you with 3 different copies of that bylaws amendment showing you what the differences are between them. And we would do that ahead of time so that you'd have a week to think about it, to decide which of those you liked best. And then in the actual voting process, what you'll be doing is ranking the different options if there exist multiple options. Now, so far this year, we actually don't have anything like that you might be voting on. But in case we wind up with things like that, I'm explaining to you how it's going to work. So anyway, so that's the reason why you would need to submit any amendments ahead of time. So that is a really important thing that you need to know. You also need to know that there will be 2 different ballots that you will be filling out in the course of the day when the Assembly business meeting is taking place. So at the top of this document where we talk about the Assembly discussion and voting procedures, it tells you that you'll get a ballot for the board and officer elections before the business meeting. And so you can vote on the board and officer elections at any time after you receive the ballot until the conclusion of the voting period for that ballot. You'll get another ballot at the end of the business meeting. That ballot will be for the various other matters of business that get discussed during the business meeting. So you'll get that second ballot, and on that ballot, you'll be voting not for the board members and the officers. You'll be voting on other matters of business like the budget. Anyway, so that's how the voting will work. And there's a bunch of other information in here about exactly how the voting system works. There's a bunch of other information in here about exactly how the discussion will work during the business meeting. I don't feel that there's a burning need to go over those details, but does anyone have any specific questions or points they'd like to be sure that I addressed?
The way to make this thing any larger other than printing it?
So, I mean, you'll be able, so you will have access to, I mean, obviously on my screen right now, I'm not expecting you to necessarily be able to read this in detail, but it's linked from the Delegate Materials site, so you can download it to your device and then you can zoom in on it and print it out or do whatever it is that you might normally do. Does that help?
Well, if I print it out in advance, it will come out to a reasonable size.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Betty, is Katrina there? Can she look at the link in the chat and you can go to your own site and then you can make it as big as you want it.
Okay. No, she's not there.
Okay,
She's gardening.
okay.
Okay. I would describe the document as being of a standard size.
Okay.
So if that is a problem for anyone specifically, I'm sure we can provide a copy that is in a larger font size. All right, so then if you continue to scroll down on the Delegate Materials site, you'll see a bunch of information about the budget. So that information is available. We have the 2022 budget detail and summary and so on. And then further down, there's some other information which will continue to be updated. Like we always update the society membership counts every year using the information that you provide in your FNS reports and so on. But the document in here that you're most likely to need is the AEU bylaws updated 2021. So that's the most recent copy of the bylaws for anyone who has, any questions about, about what we're supposed to be doing or how we're supposed to be doing it or why things work the way they do. You might find it helpful to consult the bylaws. And then continuing to scroll down, all of the various society reports and committee reports will become available here as they are, submitted and as we have time to add them to the site. So work in progress. I'm sure you all know that it's been a very challenging period at the AEU recently, and that specifically in the area of administration, it's been a particularly challenging moment. Although I'm happy to say that we have hired a new part-time administration person who has started work. So that's exciting. Yeah, Lance.
So even though there's a link there for the St. Louis Society report, that's actually for last year's.
Yes.
We're remiss. What is the deadline for getting the current report in from the society for this?
Bart would know the answer to this question.
Yeah, I think the deadline would have been great about a month ago, but as is not uncommon with our communities, we'll take it when we get it.
Yeah.
So if you can get it in by the 15th of the month, that would really be helpful, just to give delegates a chance to peruse them. I mean, there's a lot of societies there.
Yeah, and our usual procedure is to leave last year's report there until we receive the next year's report, so that if there isn't a new one, people can at least read the one from the previous year. So that's usually what we do. Yeah, Laura.
Yeah, can you go back up to the budget?
Yep. Let's see here. I will say, by the way, that I just published this budget, or I just published this website, like, as I said, about half an hour before the meeting. It looks like this budget information is not actually updated yet. Is that true, Bart? I can't hear you.
It's last year's.
Oh, this is still last year's budget information. Well, we'll be sure to get the budget information updated ASAP. I know it's been prepared. So
So my question actually is, will you keep the 22 budget information there, or will it be included in the FY23 so we can compare?
I have a secret for you.
Oh, good.
If you go up to the URL for the 2022 AEU Assembly Delegate Materials and replace the 2022 with 2021, then you get the 2021 version of this exact same page, which has all of the information that was presented for the delegates for the 2021 assembly. And if you replace it with 2020, then you can see the one from 2020 and so on. So this goes back like at least 6 or 7 years that you can use this method to find the previous information. So anyone who's looking for any previous information can definitely find it using this technique.
Okay, but my point was, in past assemblies that I was at many years ago, when we saw the budget, there was the current year and the future year together so that you could see what the changes were.
I think that sounds like I have no information about how the treasurer plans to present this information, and I do not see him on this meeting today. I would encourage you to attend one of the budget and finance sessions, which are on the calendar, so that you can discuss whatever questions and concerns you might have about the budget with Tom. And it looks like we've got budget sessions on the 9th and the 13th. I will, however, personally make sure that the budget information gets updated on the webpage, because the board approved it at the last meeting. So I'm sure it exists. All right.
This may be asking more than we're capable of doing, but is there some way of indicating when something else is added? Maybe a different color for one date or another, so that if one goes through and prints this whole thing out, you won't have to go ahead and do it again 4 days from now.
I think there's a range of things that'll be the same, and the others that will be changeable. And I guess my recommendation is try not to print things out right away.
I have a suggestion about how we could deal with this. Actually, that's a perfectly reasonable request. We can just put an updated date after the thing. Like when we update something, we can put in parentheses updated : thus and such a date, right? And that way that information will be available.
Good idea.
Yeah. So Bart, if you could pass on to Jake the request that when he updates anything that he should do that, and when I update anything, I will be sure to do that as well.
And Lisa will be doing updating.
Oh,
so
Lisa will be doing great. Well, whichever of us updates things, we will be sure to
be told. You
Yes.
update it, you change it.
Yep. Great. And I will find the budget so that I can upload it here, and then I'll put the date as an example. So, okay. So that's the conclusion of the first thing that I wanted to do, which was to show you the Delegate Materials website so that you would understand where to find information and what information was likely to be updated. Are there any questions about where to find information and what our process is for updating it, which we have just revised? Yeah, Maura.
Sorry, didn't want to unmute for me. I know this is probably a stupid question, but since I have not done this before, if you have a session that shows up two different places, two different times, I would assume that we only have to attend one of those two times.
So yeah, that's a great question. So typically what happens, so first of all, we try to have, if it's something like the budget session where it has two different times, the reason we do that is to make sure that people who have different schedule availability are still likely to be able to attend one of the sessions. However, some people will want to attend more than one of the sessions, or they might want to send one delegate from their society to one of the sessions and another delegate from the society to a different session, because there might be an interest in like if there's a change that you'd like to see happen to whatever that matter of business is, then you might want to propose a change and work on getting a change put into whatever that item is, which might in fact cause you to want to come to more than one of those sessions. But in terms of being informed about it, you can become informed by attending only one session. It's just that if you're really interested in working on it, you might want to come to more than one. And I know that sometimes, for example, if there's more than one Meet the Delegates session, people might learn different things about delegates at different sessions. And so there might be some value in coming to more than one session. Do we have more than one Meet the Delegates this year, Bart?
We have two.
Yeah, we have two. So, it's up to you. I highly recommend that every society send at least one delegate to at least one session on each of the topics, because that's how you would become informed about the issues. And, I also encourage you to communicate with the other delegate or delegates from your society so that the group of you can figure out, well, how do we want to vote on these things? And potentially talk with the board or with your society members to figure out, well, how do we want to vote on these things? Yeah, Vandra.
Okay, I'm unmuted and I can start my video too. So is this up on the website now?
Yes, it is.
Because I just went there now and it is still 2021 assembly materials.
Well, you need to go to the URL for the 2022 materials, which.
Well, I'm at the opening webpage. There is a box there for 20. There we go. We've got from here. Now from here, is this the 20? Yeah. And then I go and then check out the calendar of events from here. And
this link didn't get updated. I'll make sure that link gets updated. Okay.
And
Thank you.
Yep. We'll make sure. I'll make sure that both of those things get updated.
okay. Because
Yeah.
I actually wanted to just see, can you show who's the Anagan and Spencer awardees?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I
Yep.
happen to be one of them, so I'd like to know
Yeah.
who I'm up with.
Yeah. So, and I anticipate that there will be more Anagan and Spencer awardees, because the board still has another meeting at which we can approve additional ones. So we've got Vandra,
Thank you.
and we've got Patrick Savage, and we've got Ross Wells. So those are our awardees so far. But as I said, we have another board meeting at which we can approve more people if more societies send us nominees. So.
And can you explain the ceremony? When and where do we get these awards?
So Bart, perhaps you could explain how that process is happening this year.
So we're still working on the exact details of the ceremony, but there is an all society platform that will be the July 24th, the day after the business meeting.
Right.
And during that assembly platform will be an opportunity to how we want to do this, for the Anagan and Spencer Awards ceremony. That'll be part of the platform that day.
So it's going to be part of the platform?
Correct.
And anything else happening at that platform?
I'm hoping so.
Um,
But I don't have a lot of details just yet. There are other things that we're hoping will happen there. It's yeah. It's been hard to get final things going this year for some reason.
Okay, dokes.
Yep. All right. So moving along to another important topic that I wanted to make sure to address. So I just mentioned the value of talking with your entire delegation in order to develop, in order to determine how you plan to vote as a delegation, and potentially to discuss it with board members at the society or to discuss it with members at the society. Obviously how your society chooses to do this is up to you. But remember that your role as a delegate is to represent your whole society, right? So it's not just about your personal opinion about these various matters. And one of the things that you should know is that there are actually 3 different kinds of delegates. So there are lead society delegates. Lead society delegates have the overall responsibility for the delegation from your society. And that person is often the president of the society, although not necessarily. When your society submitted its list of delegates, one of the delegates from your society was put in as the lead delegate. That person, in addition to having sort of the overall responsibility for the delegation, also is the person who casts the society's vote when there is a bylaws amendment. So if a bylaws amendment is proposed, then each society gets to vote on it, in addition to all the delegates getting to vote on it. And the society vote is cast by that lead society delegate. So that's one kind of delegate. So they get to vote on all the other stuff, plus they get to vote on the for the society on bylaws amendments. There are also regular society delegates who get to vote on all issues, and any issue that comes before the assembly, a society delegate gets to vote on. Both a lead society delegate and a regular society delegate can cast one or more votes on behalf of their society. So, for example, if your society happens to have 4 votes, but you only have 2 delegates, your lead delegate decides which of you gets to cast how many votes. So they might decide that they as lead delegate are going to cast 2, and you as a regular delegate are going to cast the other 2. They might decide that they as lead delegate are going to cast 3 and you're going to cast 1, right? Whatever, however that vote gets split up, the decision is made by the lead delegate about how that voting gets split up. So that's another one of their roles, is to make that decision. Of course, if you have 4 votes and you have 4 delegates, then each of you just gets 1 vote. And then finally, the third kind of delegate that exists is someone who is a delegate by virtue of their position. And those people are like, each of the leaders gets a vote by virtue of their position as a leader. Every AEU board member gets a vote by virtue of their position as an AEU board member. Past presidents of the AEU get a vote by virtue of their former office. Believe it or not, this is in the bylaws. Those people who are not representing a society only get to vote on the regular matters of business. They don't get to vote in the AEU board and officer elections. So, if I happened to not be a society delegate and I was only voting because I was a board member, I wouldn't get to vote for who the board members are. I only get to vote for like which, whether the budget passes or not, for example. And of course, one person can have more than one of these roles. So I can be a society delegate and I can be a board member. And that means that I can vote both in the, you know, I then wind up with, say, 2 votes on regular matters of business and 1 vote for the board and officer elections. I know that was a little complicated. Any questions about that?
No.
I'm amazed because it's complicated. It's complicated for me because I'm the one who sets up the voting system and I have to figure out how many votes each person gets and which kind of votes. All right. Let's see. Yes, Vandra.
So just with regard to the voting for the Board of Trustees.
Yes.
So the folks that can vote for the Board of Trustees are the number of delegates from a society.
Mhm.
And that's it.
That's it. Yep.
No guests, no past presidents, no others, just.
That's right.
Okay.
Yep. All right. So next up on my list of things to be sure to explain is the ranked choice voting system. For when you are voting for the delegates or for the board members, when you're voting for the board candidates, because it is a, well, actually, because it is required by our bylaws, you will be ranking these candidates, and you will. So you'll be asked which one of these is your most favorite, which one is your second most favorite, which one is your third favorite, which one is your fourth choice, and then finally you will not rank one of the candidates because you only get to rank 4 and there are 5 candidates. You don't have to rank all 4 of the candidates that you are allowed to rank. You're allowed to only rank, your top choices. However, doing so does not, it is not the case that if you don't rank your, say, third and fourth choices, that your first and second choices get more votes somehow, right? If you don't rank your later choices, they don't get any they don't get helped in any way by your vote, but it doesn't additionally help your top choices. I don't know, does anyone have any questions about that, about the ranked choice voting? Yeah.
Yeah, all the ballots going to look the same, or are you flipping part of them? I mean, will all the ballots be ordered in the same order?
Oh,
Or
I see.
Often people flip half, and
right. We usually put the candidates in alphabetical order, but we haven't yet written the ballot. The board development committee might have some input on that. Sue, do you have any input on that?
Not at this time.
Okay.
Basically, we probably would just do it I think we were thinking alphabetical order.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alan?
Is it my correct interpretation that if one wishes to best support one candidate, it is better to vote only for that candidate. Because if one therefore gives votes to other candidates, you could be putting them above your choice, your first choice candidate.
That's a good question. Let me consider how the voting system works. So
I talked to
Yeah,
that.
I think that
There
is
has
true.
been in the past, Alan, a situation at least 8 years ago where a particular delegation decided to bullet vote. And that's what you're talking about. It's called a bullet.
Yes.
And that did cause, let's put it this way, that caused their particular favorite to win. And it is not, we don't usually see it having any other effect on an individual basis. So it is possible to bullet vote, but you cannot, it doesn't happen that often. And to make a difference, there has to be a number of people doing the same thing as you. But on an individual basis, as Sonia said, it does not really do much.
You.
Yeah. Other questions? All right. Those were all of the things. Sorry, I should have stopped sharing my screen a while ago. I apologize. Those were all of the things that I had planned to talk with you about this evening. Does anyone have any other topics that they wish I would have addressed related to your role as a delegate? Yeah, Howard.
Just real simple. A friend of mine who's also a delegate couldn't watch, so I know it's being recorded. Will you send that link out to all the delegates or make it available?
Bart?
Yes. Yes. In fact, all of the pre-assembly meetings will be recorded and made available.
And how do they find the link?
Well, we'll put them up on that same site,
Okay.
the Delegates website. Yeah.
I have another question. Will the finance discussions and things of that sort be open to non-delegate members of societies?
Yeah, we don't restrict who can attend those meetings.
Okay. That's a question on behalf of my husband, who was looking forward to some of the finance things. Some of us look forward to things like that.
We love Howard. We love Hank, and I am sure Tom will be absolutely delighted to answer any questions that Hank may have about the budget. Any other questions?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Laura.
Is all of this and the calendar and everything going to have times?
They do have times, yes.
Okay.
And those times are already available. Yep.
I mean, times for each of the sessions and the workshops and all the rest.
Yeah, that
Okay.
information is already available on the website.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll actually have the calendar entries match up with what's on that sheet of paper.
That would be lovely.
Yep.
That's the plan.
Yeah. All right. Well, on that note, I think we are finished. Iris, did you have something?
Well, I just want to confirm that tomorrow night's meeting actually starts at 8 o'clock rather than 9 o'clock.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't have any other meetings.
Okay.
So no.
But it's
I'm really sorry about the confusion about tonight's meeting. For your information, we are facing a number of challenges with respect to getting all this information together about the assembly, including, sort of various staff outages and whatever that has led to a little more chaos than usual. And I'm sorry about that. Yeah.
So Sonia, the tomorrow night's meeting, and I guess there's the one after that, are the same subject matter as this one. Is that right?
No, tomorrow night's meeting is meet the delegate or meet the candidates. So tomorrow night you'll have an opportunity to meet the people who are running for the board.
What time is that?
That's at 8 o'clock Eastern time.
Oh, right. I just heard that, didn't I?
Yeah, that's okay.
But there's another
It's a question I know the answer to.
Good.
But isn't there a second Meet the Candidates on July 17th?
Yes.
There is a second one. Yeah.
Do you know, can
And
I
I
ask?
I believe it's 5 o'clock then. What time did you decide, Bart?
I think you have 5 p.m.
5 p.m. Eastern. So that is different.
Yeah. Usually the ones that are on the weekend are at a different time than the ones that are during the week, because the ones that are during the week are intended to be sort of after the end of the workday, or at least close to the end of the workday for those of you in California. Whereas the ones on the weekend are obviously, there's a more free time choice about when those can be. All right. Yes. Drawer, am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Yes. Thank you, Sonia. I'm going to assume I know how to pronounce yours. Drawer. Yeah. I'm from Brooklyn. Thank you. I think you did a great job explaining this. You're nice job. What I'm wondering for tomorrow, how's it going to work to meet the candidates? It'll take turns, or will somebody reintroduce each one? Just curious.
I'll ask Sue to answer that question. Since
Okay,
Sue is with the board
what the
development
policy is for tomorrow, my committee is, I've got one other committee member on. She gets to help me time and watch people come in. First dibs, we're going to do a brief introduction of each candidate. And then we're going to start with delegates being able to answer questions. So we will let the delegates ask, and we will let other people who are not delegates, who are just attending because they like to attend, meet the candidates, which is one of the better things about Zoom, that you guys have all, because you never knew who you were really voting for. We are going to have basically, your question will be 1 to 2 minutes, the response by each of the candidates. Your question gets answered by all 5 candidates. If we've got, say, a question for the officer candidates, it is all for officers. It is not designed to be for just one person. It is the same policy that we did last year and the year before last.
So they do not read, or maybe I didn't listen carefully enough. They do not read their statement, or
They probably won't. They're going to be really short, because we only have about an hour to an hour and a half. In fact, one of my candidates has said that they must leave at 9. Now, granted, it is an officer candidate, which is not as important as the regular directors, but still we'll want to get that information particular to that particular candidate done by 9. So we'll do things quickly if we can help it. But this is ethical time, and ethical time can do its own thing.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks so much for that question. Yeah, Howard.
Yeah, the 17th is at 6 p.m. according to the email, Eastern time. So I just don't want anybody confused.
Bart,
Not 12 o'clock.
I didn't have anything to do with the email. So thoughts, Bart?
I'll need to look at it. I can't look at it at the very moment because I'm recording on the Zoom and it's going to screw that recording up. But I will, in fact, look right after this.
Okay. It sounds like we may need to make sure to send out an updated, corrected kind of document.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, John.
Hi. Yeah, thanks for all the effort so far. Thanks for remembering us Californians in the scheduling. I want to just make a appeal, if I can, to well, from my standpoint as wanting to tell the members of our little society all about assembly, it would be very handy if I could send an email with a link, maybe just one link that leads to a nice page that has all of the stuff about assembly and easily clickable to find out what they are. I think in past years we've had this, and there's been a website for the 100 and whatever 5th assembly. So this is the 107th, and I don't see a similar website for that. So I know it's pressing times and staff is choppy and everything, but that's a request. It would, I think, be handy, not just for me, but for other societies to get the word out to our members who may be casually connected and don't know, they're not insiders, you know.
Yeah.
Just some way to feed it out to them, nice and simple and clean and neat.
Does the link I just put in the chat, does that meet your needs? I will, of course, correct the link to the calendar of events and the delegate link on that page right after this meeting.
I'm opening it here. And yeah, this is.
All right, and it will be an event on the homepage for AEU.org as well. We hadn't published it yet. Jake is returning tomorrow, so hopefully he'll be able to sort out the numerous issues.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay.
How does that differ from the first thing? Is it just a list of events, or?
So the first thing is the specific delegate information that has like more of the nitty-gritty details of the things delegates need to know. The other link is the link that has more of the, like, here are the different programs that are happening during this assembly, and here are the dates, and here's a brief description of what they are, that kind of stuff. Okay.
I have a question.
Sure.
My question is simply this: should I be preparing statements for the meet and greet about my background as an ethical culture member, or are you doing the questioning and eliciting my responses?
Sorry, Sue?
Yeah, I'm not seeing who asked that question.
Joni.
Joan, no, this is only a candidate situation. It's candidates.
Oh, so it doesn't apply to me as a delegate?
No, it's only candidates that are going to be talking.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You do get to ask questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. All right. All right. I think that sort of the questions have kind of trickled to a close. So let's stop the recording and conclude the session. Thanks everybody for coming tonight. I really appreciate you taking the time to learn